Oh, here we go. What's going on, everybody? I'm Nick Galrakis, and Steve Galrakis here with you for episode 3 of Spilling Tea with the G's, produced by Elephants in Tea. So welcome again, and I am super excited for this video cast, this episode today, because we have the F's with us. And no, we're not getting perverted. Well, maybe, I guess, depending on who you ask. But we have Colin Ferro and Mike Ferro on with us. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Doing well. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Good, Nick.
Like your hat.
Happy Wednesday, by the way, not Thursday, but we'll go with Thursday.
Is it Wednesday? It is Wednesday. Thursday is golf. I remember that because I made golf tomorrow, Thursday.
COVID time. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And Steve, go ahead and say hello. I realize I jumped over you and didn't give you a chance to say hi either.
Oh, it's typical. You know, youngest brother always forgotten. But no, I'm really excited to have you guys here today and get a chance to talk about epic experience and your guys' relationship through cancer and everything. So, yeah, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, and I think before we kind of go into our discussion, I want to just kind of point out the reason for the Giants hats going on here. You know, first of all, the Ferro brothers, they live in Colorado, but they are big San Francisco fans, I believe, of all sports, correct? Are you guys Warrior fans? I never asked that.
Okay, fans.
Sorry, Oakland, right? So that's good. All right, we're good there.
We're the Cleveland Browns of basketball. We are the Sacramento Kings fans. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's man. You got Vlade Divac running the show. I might bust out my Vlade Divac jersey later.
I have my signed picture of him right over here. But yeah.
Oh my God. I'm sure a lot of the people that are listening to this going, "What are you guys talking about?" But you know, I am a closet San Francisco Giants fan, so I bust out the hat because I was mean and wore the Rolling with Mahomes T-shirt. So the Ferro brothers about hung up on us because I desecrated the San Francisco 49ers in their attempted Super Bowl run. But hey, we're Browns fans, so we got nowhere to talk. So let's get into the reason why we got you guys on here. So for those that most people I would think by now know that Steve and I are where our relationship is. Steve is the patient survivor, patient again. In our family, I'm the sibling of someone that has gone through cancer and running Elephants in Tea and the Stephen G. AYA Cancer Research Fund. And Colin and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are obviously very similar as well. So I'll let you guys kind of talk about that a little bit. You know, Colin, I don't know if you want to go first. And actually, who's the oldest and who's the youngest of the two?
I relate with Stephen when he says, you know, younger. I don't know about you, but middle child. So it's even worse when I talk it up. So, got that going.
I am the middle child as well.
See, yep, we get it. So, I don't know how many times you were locked out of the house as well and just all of a sudden left at school. You know, those problems. Playing the violin a little bit. But anyways, so similar to you guys as far as a relationship, that's why I know I was so excited about doing this. And that is, caregiver for Michael through his journey, and I'll let him tell more about his own journey later. But I just think it's so cool how the contrast between, both of our families, right, of what we're doing, and, our mom's involved, et cetera. But not only that, you got, Steve and Michael, who are the survivors and thrivers, and then you have Nick and I from the caregiver role within the family as a sibling. And here we are, Nick and I, kind of moving forward, working in the space to really make sure that no other person in the community is impacted. And so I just think it's such a cool dynamic to be able to sit here, talk about that, and also being, just calling it what it is, but being men that are working in the space. Because I don't know if you felt it, Nick, but it's rare for myself to meet other men working in the nonprofit industry, at least within the cancer community. There aren't a lot of us out there. There are some, but it's not the norm. And then similar to, Stephen and Michael talking about your journey, men just don't talk about it as much. And so I think it's really important, kind of the conversation we're about to have today, and just excited to be a part of it. So I don't know what else you want to add, Michael, but.
Yeah. So, I think for Colin and I mean, Colin and I have been best friends since we were pretty much came out of the womb. 2 years apart. I'm older. But I think for me, it was, I didn't really, at the time, I didn't really know where I was supposed to go when I got sick. And Colin was kind of that rock for me that would kind of push me to get out of bed, say, hey, Michael, let's go get a beer. Let's go out for a walk. Let's go play some basketball. We'll just do something to keep me active and keep me busy. But at the same time, kind of recognizing that, I did have hard days too. So I think it was pretty cool that dynamic with our relationship. And like Colin said, the journey that, my cancer diagnosis, Steven, your diagnosis, and kind of where it's brought you guys, it is very cool to see how, our experiences have kind of come full circle to be able to, again, find a way to help those in the cancer community so that, you and me, Steven, there's other people out there that say, hey, where can I go for help? And I think it's really cool to be able to see a family dynamic, like I said, come full circle to give back to the community.
Well, and I was going to say, Mike, I'm not sure how it was for you guys or for you especially. I know for me, it took, obviously I'm working on my 4th cancer right now, but it wasn't until after my 2nd cancer that I really wanted to have any involvement in this community.
Yeah.
I wanted to push it aside, not do anything. I was done with cancer and all that kind of stuff. So, it's really cool to see that, that you have also been able to kind of come around to helping people and things. And
I think, it took me a while. It took me a while to really say, do I want to be active in the cancer community? And, I would still say I'm not as active, obviously, as my brother is. I do whatever I can to help support Epic, but, it did take me some time to be like, do I really want to immerse myself back in the cancer community to know, like, hey, am I good first? To make sure that kind of my mental health and my psyche is healthy before jumping right back into cancer. Because as we know, cancer can mess with your mind in many different ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's, interesting to note, you guys are 2 years apart, you said, where Steve and I, we're 5 years apart. And I think our relationship was in a much different place than where your guys's were. When Steve was diagnosed the first time, Steve being 15 years old and I was, technically we were 6 years apart at the time. I was 21. So I'm at college partying my head off, right? Or 20. I was 20, Steve, right? 20,
I was 15.
21.
Yeah, you were 20.
15, I was 20. And, so it was
Still
very
partying
different.
Face
Additional, see, I can't even talk. Addition and subtraction are not my fortes, boys. So don't judge me too hard on that. But anyways, no. So it's from just the sibling standpoint, right? It was a very different situation. And then even again for Steve when he had his 2nd cancer and stuff. And our relationship has, and Steve, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I feel like our relationship has grown more over the years, for sure. My older brother, so there's 3 of us. And our older brother, Phil, he's 2 years apart from me. So him and I were like you two, where we were pretty inseparable growing up. And Steve was the younger one jumping on the pile, when we're wrestling around or playing sports, whatever the case may be. So, from that standpoint, it's interesting how different the dynamic is for us. And I would agree with what you said, Mike, and as far as Steve, you alluded to it as well, how you're not as involved from the start. You are more and more involved now. But even when we first launched Elephants and Tea, really weren't that much involved at all. So.
Yeah, no, it was, especially with Elephants and Tea, it was just kind of having no experience in publication or media or, even, the willingness to hear everyone's stories. Because as you kind of alluded to, Mike, before, doing this work, it takes a toll on you, and, my brother reads every article that gets sent to Elephants and Tea, and some are happy and some aren't. And, and for me, it's a little more of a struggle for me to kind of handle those things. So yeah, so at first I really, with Elephants and Tea, just kind of sat back and let Nick do what needed to be done. And wherever I could help, I tried to help, so yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, and so I don't know about, for you, Nick, but were you going to college locally to where you guys are from? Were you out of state or?
Out of state, but only about a 2-hour drive. So not super far away.
And I think that's what made me, Michael and my experience so unique was, I came out to the university Denver, or we both went to the same college in Denver. We both were away from home. You know, our parents were still in California.
Regis University, FYI.
Regis University, yes. Sorry, let me go a shout out to where we went to college. Go Rangers. But anyways, one of those many schools that claims we are still undefeated at football because we never had football. That type of school.
Got it.
But you know, it's one of those things that I think that's what made our experience so unique. We were away from our family. We were away from home. Our parents weren't there. And so, you know, they came out here for big surgeries, but I was that frontline emotional support because I was here with him. So I was able to see him in between appointments. I was able to see him after appointments, you know, and so it was more of, as I shared before, you know, with people, I was the emotional support. Don't get me wrong. I was in college. My brother's in college. I couldn't support him as a caregiver financially, to help with his bills, things like that. My job was that emotional side to say, I'm seeing you go down a dark road. How can I help brighten that up a little bit each day? Find those moments. Right. And so I think that's what made us so unique. And, you know, you guys mentioned it before. Michael and I have always been really close. Hands down, won't argue that. But I will say that after cancer, it just took it to another level. We were both here, but at the same time, it was like, you know what? We could talk about things we couldn't talk about before. Not so much. And it almost at the beginning came out of we have to talk about this. Not that we wanted to, but we felt like we have to. And then I think now it's just opened it to now it's not so much we have to, but we know it's a good thing, right? And it's just the check-ins are good or this or that, or and they're not all the time. We're not sitting here like, you know, chicken soup for the soul or anything like that. But, you know, it is one of those things where it's just, you know, you see things in each other now a little different, and you, I think, are a little more inclined to say something versus before you just sit back and say, he'll be fine.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And I think that in adding to that with the way our relationship was and how it kind of evolved, you mentioned being the emotional support for Mike and all that. And I know one of the things for myself that this was more so when Steve was cancer-free for 10 years as a survivor than it was during treatments, was learning to just shut up and be there from an emotional support standpoint, and don't be another parent or doctor telling him what to do and giving advice and stuff. You know, did you guys ever run into that type of scenario where you were, I see Mike shaking his head, yes, maybe giving too much advice, and it was kind of like, you know what, you just needed to shut up and be the guy, be the brother to just say, hey, let's go grab a beer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, for me, that was a big thing. I think we had a support system, you know, in kind of my immediate family, you know, some very close friends. But I think one of the things that I learned, you know, when I was going through it, you know, 22, 23, was that, you know, yeah, there were a lot of other people that had opinions and feedback on how to, you know, approach a cancer journey, right? I think we can all relate right now, the four of us, is that someone's cancer journey is their own, number one. And you can't, and no one's there's no roadmap to do it. You know, I think for me, you know, I had, you know, my parents obviously were incredibly supportive when I was going through, you know, everything, being there for my surgeries, you know, but I think for Colin, what Colin helped me with was that just silence, right? But Colin also understood that I'm having a tough time right now, and like, you don't really need to say anything. Just say, hey, let's go get a beer. And we could go talk about, you know, the Giants or anything, football, baseball, you name it, right? And figure out, like, that was my way of kind of letting my shoulders back a little bit. You know, I think for me, it was just, again, I had so many other people saying, oh, try this or try that. Where Colin was just very good at just kind of listening and not giving his feedback once I started, you know, getting emotional or just kind of diving in on something about life at the time. Yeah, it was really important for me that Colin really understood that. So yeah, I don't know, Steve, what about you? Did you have that kind of same feeling?
Well, so, you know, as Nick kind of alluded to, it was a little bit different for us. You know, where you guys were at the same college. Yeah. I was a sophomore in high school, and right. Nick was, you know, 2.5 hours away. So, not that Nick wasn't there at the beginning, because he was as much as he could be, because he was in college and, you know, and having to deal with school. The thing that we ran into more of as the years have gone on is, and I think Nick would probably agree with me on this, is understanding the perspective that each person had on the journey, you know, because yeah, I was the one that was dealing with the cancers and still dealing with cancer. But as you guys know, you know, no one goes through cancer alone, whether you go through it alone or not. It affects everyone in your family dramatically differently, from your parents to your siblings to relatives. And, you know, it was, I never had, like, you know, early on, we never had any issues, as Nick kind of, you know, talked about. Later on, we had some issues where he tried to be more of a coach. And obviously we had little head-butting moments on that. But very quickly, you know, he kind of, once he became more involved with the community, really began to understand that a lot of the things that he was getting frustrated with are things that affected all of us,
Sure.
from chemo brain to other things. And, you know, all of those things that the rest of the world doesn't know, you know, happens to cancer patients with all the post-operative stuff of chemo and all the side effects. So that was really the only time we had those kind of moments. But throughout all of it, though, I was always extremely supportive. You know, they'd come to the hospital and visit me. We played video games and hung out. So he was that kind of relief from the reality of cancer. You know, I remember my brothers coming and spending Christmas Eve with me one night in the hospital, and it was like awesome. It was one of the greatest experiences of my cancer experience. So during it, we didn't have those kind of issues, but it was afterwards, as I began to try and re-enter into the real world, you know, that I began to struggle, and he really wanted to help me. And that's where we kind of had issues, but also began to grow, because we began to understand more about each other and more about the things that each one of us went through and how it affected us.
Sure. It's amazing how you can make memories in the hospital, right?
Oh, yeah.
Day after Michael, I'll jump in because he's used to me sharing, you know, his story, unfortunately. But, you know, day after we found his brain tumor, we were in the neuro ICU because they were trying to figure out what it was. And it was the day of the Super Bowl. Now, we're in college and it's a Super Bowl. So back then in Colorado, liquor stores were closed on Sundays. So we're like, we have to get there. Well, we didn't. But some of our friends end up coming in. We're in the neuro ICU, and we are screaming, yelling, and nurses are coming in. You guys have to be quiet. You got to be quiet. We're just like, it's a Super Bowl. We're not being quiet if we're going to be here. And by the second half, they're all jumping in the neuro ICU with us. What's the score? What's going on?
And my monitors were going off the wall. They were just beeping left and right.
Oh, I can only imagine. Wow. That, you know, first of all, who was in that Super Bowl?
2007.
I don't remember who it was. I just remember pissing off a lot of nurses.
Yeah, I think we've all been there. But no, as far as well, first of all, a funny note about that Christmas Eve that Steve mentioned, Brady Quinn actually was there the entire night. Fun fact. So Brady Quinn's he was the quarterback for the Browns at the time, and he gave up he was there from like 5 o'clock to like 11 p.m. at night. I mean, he was there all day serving food for everybody. So anyways, shout out to Brady Quinn. It was pretty cool to see him do that. I think Steve even shot him with the Nerf guns, shockingly, right? Didn't you shoot him?
Oh, we had a gigantic Nerf gun fight. Brady Quinn was jumping over desks on the floor, and then told me he was going to come back with the bazooka Nerf gun and shoot me with it.
Mm-hmm. Because Steve was on the pediatric side, so it was a little more friendly. But anyways, no, for me, the big wake up call, you know, one, obviously Steve and I had a big blowout about it, and he told me exactly how he felt. But two was going to CancerCon 2018 or 2017, and kind of sitting there and talking with people, being like, holy crap, like Steve's like everybody else, right? And that was, I think, the big kind of like, damn, like, my bad, you know what I'm saying? And that was to be around that many people at that age, because our family, with Steve being treated on the pediatric side, he was with people that were under the age of 10, right? There weren't a ton of teenagers, or even, you know, anyone that's considered an AYA, right? In the adolescent or young adult space. Even when Steve got sick a second time, he was 18, but because it was a secondary cancer, he was still treated on the pediatric side because it was part of his first cancer. So we really had no experience with the young adult community. And my mom, starting the Stephen G. AYA Cancer Research Fund, really did focus more on the A of the AYA. So it was really, and my mom, you know, she's the one that said, you need to come to CancerCon and really just kind of experience it. So that was really the oh, got it. Like this really is this is a thing. And I think it was actually the professor from Penn State who's also a survivor. His name is escaping me right now, but he was a keynote speaker that year, and he talked about chemo brain and everything else. He wrote a book about like your mom's marijuana or something like that. I'm forgetting the.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about. Okay, so I'm not. What, Steve? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I'm sure everyone watching this right now is saying his name, and I can't think of it. All I remember is that he was a writer for Grey's Anatomy as well.
Yes.
So
yeah, he's got a beard. We're all in front of our computers. I'm sure somebody can Google it real quick.
He's such a good speaker too. It's driving me nuts.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. He was unbelievable. But anyway, so that was kind of my like, okay, this you can't. Some people obviously are rebound better than others, right? And it was my wake up call, if you will. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. So,
I mean, our younger, so we're one of three, or we're two of three as well. And we have a younger sister who is, 3.5 years younger than myself. So 5.5 younger than Michael. And she really put it best in it. And to me, really thinking about how it affects the whole family. And it wasn't until about 3-4 years after Michael's diagnosis, and she was given a platform. People were asking her questions about kind of what she was going through. And she just spoke up finally and hadn't said a word, honestly. Never asked questions, just shut down, never said a thing. When Michael was diagnosed, she was a senior in high school. And she watched Michael and I have great senior years. Our parents had parties for us. They were at all our sporting events. They were at all this. Well, now my parents were missing stuff. She was having to stay with family friends because they were out for Michael's surgeries or treatment, and they were traveling back and forth. And she finally said, she just said, I still am, but I was pissed. She's like, I'm not pissed at Michael. I'm not mad at him, but the situation that I didn't get the experience that my brothers got in high school, and I felt like I missed out on something. And so it just was such an eye-opening experience to me of like, wow, that truly just puts a scope on how it affects the whole family. And it's not in a way that is direct to Michael's cancer necessarily. She just wanted an experience like we got. And due to circumstances, and she understood. It's one of those things she still does, but she still said, it sucks that it was different. She was feeling the loss. So.
Totally.
Yeah. And I mean, Stephen, I don't know. I mean, for you, I mean, I had a lot of guilt, I think, with my cancer, at least like on my family. Like when Colin brings up my sister, I mean, I think, the way that my cancer kind of impacted our entire family, from finances to relationships, just to, and even our outer relationships outside of our family. I mean, I had a lot of guilt, I think, and especially like, when I started hearing when my sister would kind of finally start speaking up and talking a little bit more about kind of how she feels, I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that she felt that way, And at the same time, while I know that, no one in my family blames me for what happened or anything like that, there's still a little bit of that guilt that says, oh, well, my sister did miss out on her senior year of high school, right? Or maybe not missed out, but missed out on certain aspects of it. Similar to kind of what's going on right now with some of the kids in high school right now. But I think for me, it definitely was that guilt that I had, and I think it took me a long time to kind of figure that out, and figure out kind of how my cancer kind of came into play with again, I always talk about my mental health, but how my guilt kind of played, within my family. I think Colin kind of was talking about it just now, but for me, my guilt was a big part of kind of figuring out what my new normal was going to be with my family.
Obviously being the youngest child, it was a little different for me. I didn't have so much guilt towards my family, but I did have, as my psychiatrist would later tell me, it was not a good idea. I would try and shield people within my family from the full story of how things were going on.
Yep.
Like it wasn't until about 5-6 years ago that I started telling my dad everything that was going on. My mom was really the only person. It made my brother feel a little bit because he was actually at home going to Cleveland State University when I was diagnosed the first time. But my mom was really the only person who had a true understanding of the extent of the effects on my mental psyche, my physical, how I was feeling physically, because unfortunately I would see how it would affect my dad, when I would tell him something, and, we were scared we were so scared of my father growing up. You know, he has a nickname. His name is Harry, but his nickname is the Hair Wolf because he would get so mad he would like turn into a werewolf kind of thing. Is what our one friend put it as. I'm sure he loves it. I just made that reference. But
it was funny. I don't even. Well, real quick too, to not say that I never thought Dad was that scary, but everybody else thought Dad was scary. So, anyways, go on. Maybe because I was bigger than him growing up too, but.
I watched him suplex Nick when he was 270 pounds and break the bed. I was terrified of the man. But it was that I was able to recognize.
We also say that he didn't beat us. All right, go on, Steve.
No. We just wrestled really hard. I saw how it was affecting people, and I saw how it was affecting my father, and how sad it was making him, and how emotional it was making him. And quite literally, I had one of his coworkers told me to not tell him everything because he had a hard time functioning at work because of my cancer. And that was at the age of 16, you know, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm taking this one for the team, you know, and I'm just going to tell my mom is what I can, and everything else I'm just going to keep to myself, you know, which was a terrible idea, you know, because it didn't help him understand what I was going on. It didn't help me go through anything. You know, I sat there keeping this in, thinking I'm protecting people, but at the same time, I'm actually not doing them any justice, and I'm hurting myself in the long run. You know, and as you said, you talk about, you know, your mental health and stuff. It's something that I found that I have to talk about, one for my own sake, but then also for the sake of my family and everyone else around, because no one will ever understand what we go through or what our family members go through unless we talk about how everything affects us. Right. And like you said, you didn't know how it affected your sister until she finally opened up and said, it sucked.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the thing is, I mean, for me, it was, you know, I know how much my mom, dad, brother, and sister would do anything they could to take the pain that I was going through, take it away, right? And there's a conversation that I know I kind of put my dad on blast about this, but it's something that I think is really important that, you know, we got into it one night when I was, you know, recovering from one of my surgeries, and I was already having kind of a tough night. And my dad, he goes, Michael, he's like, I love you and I understand what you're going through. And I was like, and I said, Dad, F you, you have absolutely no idea what I'm going through. And it was a tough thing for me to actually say a 4-letter word to my dad. You know, I was like, if I say that F word, is he going to smack me or what's going to But, you know, I think for me,
your dad can be intimidating too.
Yeah, he can be. You know, but I think for me, it was you know, everyone wants to try and understand what you're going through. But it's really hard, obviously, to put yourself in their shoes. Like I said, they want to take the pain away from you. They want to do everything they can to help, but at the same time, they're going to try and understand. But sometimes, you know, the language that they could use could be more harmful than good sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully I never had a specific moment like that from my parents. Me and my dad did have a recent blowout for like 2 seconds.
I was on the phone while that was going on.
We're gonna relabel this episode Dad Blast.
I was gonna say, poor dads, man. Like, dads can't win in this situation.
Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Oh no. It was you know, it was one of those moments where you know, when you're trying to figure out what was said in the doctor's office, and I was in the back of the car just after being diagnosed like 2 months earlier, and we were just talking about the surgery I was going to have that I just had 3 months ago, actually. And we were talking about what the doctor had said, whether I was going to whether they were either going to crack a rib or cut 2 ribs out. And Nick's on the phone, we're talking to him, and my dad disagrees with me, and then he mouths, and I see it in his mirror, like in his sun visor mirror, no, you're wrong. And I saw him mouth that, and I just erupted in the car. I've never once in my life been so angry, been so mad at my father before. And I dropped, yes, plenty of 4-letter words on him that day. I apologized to him afterwards. I love you. I'm so sorry. But it was like, dude, don't. Honestly, I felt like I was the dad in that moment, and he was the little kid, and I caught him doing something stupid.
And just to add to it, like, our dad just retired too, so he has so much time on his hands. So that plus this, it was exactly, just a lot of looking things up, whatever the case may be. It was just, yeah, he had a lot of time on his hands.
Yep.
He didn't have work to release the stress or take his mind off of things. All right. Well, let's stop bashing our fathers. We love
I know,
them dearly.
Nick, you and I are screwed.
Out of love. It's out of love.
Nick and I are
It's
both
all
new dads.
love.
Just know in 20 years, this is all coming at us.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. We both now know what it's like to be a dad, and it's like, okay, got it.
And Steven and Michael are going to remember this and encourage it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be the uncle for sure.
Exactly. So, something tells me the four of us just need to get beers one night and continue a lot of these conversations, a lot of these comments, and we can keep going and going. But let's talk about Epic, right? Epic experience a little bit too. And, as we talked about, I'm the executive director for Elephants and Tea and the Stephen GOA Cancer Research Fund, while Steve's the one that went through cancer, isn't necessarily as involved, but is involved, is on our board and everything else. So similar situation for you guys, right, Colin, where you're the director, right? That's your official title with Epic?
Yeah, my mom and I are both like, we don't know about titles, but yeah, when I need to put one down, it's director.
Sure, got it. Okay, so you help, you basically run it, one of the people that run it and stuff, and Mike, you help out when you can, it sounds like, right?
Right. Yeah.
Got it. So, first of all, before we kind of go into that relationship a bit, Colin and Mike, tell everybody a little bit about Epic Experience, right? We know, Steve and I know what it is, but tell everybody about like what you guys do basically.
Yeah, so Epic Experience, we empower adult cancer thrivers and survivors beyond cancer through a few different platforms. And we do that. Our flagship program is our week-long adventure camp. We just had, unfortunately, this last week made the tough decision with everything going on that we had to cancel all of our camps for the summer. So that was a hard one to swallow because that week-long camp has been what we've done since we were founded. It's our original program. It is by far where we see the biggest impact of the ability to help shape and transform cancer survivors' lives, hopefully give them a launching point again. And so we're having to evolve like everybody else. But we started with those week-long camps. They're winter and summer. Winter, we're doing such things as winter, we're doing such thing as cross-country skiing, sledding, and snowshoeing. And in the summertime, we're doing rafting, inflatable kayaking, hiking, and horseback riding. And as much as those activities are the fun part that we can make a great video on and it looks really cool, and it's the sexy part, what it's about is community and building a family atmosphere. My mom and I, working the organization together through these years, we were founded in 2012, and I came on board in 2014. And at first, I came from a large corporate background, so I was in a mindset of like, all right, what are our core values? What is this? What is that? Trying to build all this structure. And really then it got to a point where I think it was honestly 2016, 2017, where I was like, we need to stop trying to just talk about the Ferro family. We need to talk about Epic Experience, and the Ferro family kind of needs to go, and we need to look bigger than this, and we're more than just that, to where now we've taken a step back and going, no, that's not our identity. Our identity is family. We bring people to our program, and once they become an alumni, we refer to them as part of the Epic Experience family, because that's what we are. Everybody knows myself, my mom, but they also get to know my sister, my brother, my mom. We're all a part of this organization, and everybody feels that by the end. And so it's one of those things that realize what you're good at, and that is our family foundation is what has made our experience different and made it strong, because people feel, I think, the passion behind it. And so, our camps are what we do. We've had 50 or coming up on 50 or 49, but we've served, over 500 cancer survivors, but now we're trying to evolve. And one of the blessings we've had out of COVID, honestly, has been, it's caused us to get more creative in ways we didn't think of. And that is virtual programming. And so, yes, it's a bummer, although we had to cancel our in-person camps, and not have those, we've decided, created a virtual camp that we're going to launch. And actually, I just sent out emails to all of our applicants today. Today's the first day we've launched it. And it's going to be a Monday through Thursday. And we're going to be able to do something to where we go virtual. We bring 10 survivors and thrivers together of the same diagnosis and say, let's talk for the week. Let's get to know each other. Let's build that community and that family. And so, we're doing that. We're doing some yoga programs, but we also do, when we can get out again to hopefully our normal lives. regional events to where we travel to certain cities where we have a population of folks, and we do one-day events like a game day or something of that sort. And then we also have some online support. So really, it's a wide range, and it's only getting wider now. But at the end of the day, my mom and I talk about one thing, and that is we want to make sure that if you are a cancer survivor going through treatment or going through some sort of mental capacity where it's just like, I'm having a hard time, this was 10 years ago, we just want to be a resource. We're not saying we have the answers. We're not saying you have to come to our programs. We'll sit on the phone, though, with people that call our 1-800 number for an hour, hour and a half, and just listen because they don't know where to turn or who to talk to. And that is part and the identity of that Epic Experience family. We are more than a camp. This is not a, yeah, it's a job for my mom and I, but we're not in this for a paycheck. It's not why you go to work for a nonprofit. But, it's about just making sure people know they're not alone. And, that's really what Epic Experience is about. We do all adults. We're not just AYA. So 18, our oldest has been 80. So, and that's proven to work really well for us. So that's my word vomit on Epic Experience. But I don't know, Michael, if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, not too much to add. I think for me, it's I think when we had the idea of starting Epic back in technically 2011, Colin?
Yep.
I think, that's what really, I think I'm most proud about is when I was going through my cancer journey, I realized obviously how important family was. It's been very, very cool to see that really that Epic has been built off of that foundation. We bring all these people in to come to Epic and for a week, and like Colin said, they become part of our family. Everyone knows my mom as her camp name is Mama Lou. I know that she looks at every single one of her campers as it's one of her kids, even if you're 80 years old. She still looks at you as the people who come to experience Epic as our family. And I think that's what makes Epic Experience, like Colin said, very, very unique and different. That, like we said, we have such a family dynamic to our entire organization.
Awesome. That's going to be one of my questions for you, Mike, was, first of all, what you guys do is awesome, period. I mean, we're huge fans of Epic, even though I've never been on one of the trips. And Steve, you haven't either, have you? You're on mute. You're on mute. We need a button to zap somebody when they're on mute.
I know, my bad. No, I have not personally been on an Epic Experience trip yet, but I have had friends who have gone, and I've heard nothing but incredible things. And obviously I've met Colin before at events, and nothing but wonderful rave reviews from everybody I've ever talked to who's ever gone to Epic Experience. And they always say it's an experience. It really is a true, wonderful, life-changing thing.
Yeah, we've been blessed with a lot of great people, and it's one of those things that kind of, Stephen, you kind of hinted at it before, as far as kind of with you and Michael, it's hard to be in the community sometimes because you're looking a lot of times yourself in the mirror when you're hearing a lot of testimonials or people talking about things versus, Nick and I are, kind of in it right now with doing it on our day to day. And the one thing that I always say is, people ask me a lot, and there were times really specifically like a month and a half period where you talk about loss. And, unfortunately, the more people I get to meet, the bigger the pool gets of people. But what I love about what I get to do at camp is that, I'm our camp director. So I'm taking them on all the activities. I'm playing with them every one we have. And what I love is life is about the memories we make. Right? We all want the long timeline. Don't get me wrong. We want to live until we're 120. But what good is that timeline if you're not making those memories while we're here? And so I think about all those people, and it's like whether they were just at Epic for a week and that's the time I had with them, or they stay in contact with us and we keep the relationship going as long as we can. To create those memories is how I hold everyone dear. And it's like, as whether they unfortunately have passed or not, they still hold such a special place in my heart because I was able to share so many cool experiences, whether it's conversations or laughing on the river or flipping them out of their boat, whatever it is. But, it's just.
You're that guy.
That's what life's about.
Oh, he is definitely that guy.
He is that guy.
He's definitely that guy.
If I know you at all and you come to our camp, you better believe you are getting out of your boat at some point.
I love it. So a couple thoughts real quick. One, more so for the audience, right? As my camera is like doing some weird thing. There we go. People can get more information. What's your guys' website again?
So our website is epicexperience.org.
And then you guys have a lot of your digital stuff right now, the virtual stuff on your Facebook group, correct?
Yeah, so you can find it on it's linked through our homepage on our website, or follow us on Facebook's the best way, because we put all of our events on in our events tab on Facebook. So that's the best way to find any information out about us.
Awesome. And then your trips, are they mostly in Colorado or the other areas, Colin?
So all of our trips are, all of our week-long, I should say, our flagship camp trips, the week-long, those are all here in Colorado. We have been blessed to host them all at the 7W Ranch. It's about 3 hours west of Denver. And yeah, it's a 215-acre ranch. It's been donated to us by a great family who are great friends of ours. And they've been very involved. And so we've been lucky to have that ranch at our disposal for 6 to 8 weeks a year, give or take. And it's amazing. I mean, views that you just can't beat. You feel like you're on top of the Rocky Mountains, and get to play on the Colorado River. And so all of our camps are there. And it's a absolute just amazing place to go and take it all in.
Awesome. Well, that's I have to somehow get out there is really what it comes down to. And
hey, you know what? I'm getting ready. Here's how much we want to get up there, knowing that we're not going to be able to have camps this year. We've reached out to the owners and we're like, hey, do you have any projects you need done at the ranch that we can come up and help with? So we can get up there, because I don't know where we're going right now. And it's for somewhere you have to be in a quarantine. Talk about a great place to be. 215 acres, good to go. It's you, the elk and moose and bear, and that's all up my alley.
We'll do elk and moose. I don't know about bear, but I should say I did walk up on a moose in Alaska once. That was terrifying.
Yeah, I would walk.
We had our first video that we actually created for Epic back in 2011.
2012 on that one.
2012, yeah. We were up at the ranch, and the ranch hand had actually told us, saying, hey guys, just so you know, there's some bear droppings around the main lodge. Just keep your eyes out, blah, blah, blah. So the next morning we're having breakfast. We look across the pond and we see this little head poke out through the brush. I'm like, oh. And I'm like, looks like a little guy, right? Well, he wasn't a little guy. About an hour later, we start filming because we're doing our first Epic Experience video. And they were filming myself and my oncologist. And my oncologist was one of our founding board members. So the cameras are on us. And all of a sudden I see everyone's eyes getting huge. And people start sprinting around, like kind of around the lodge. But I'm like, what is going on? And I turn around and I literally saw the tail of the bear turning the corner. And it was walking up behind us while we were filming. Wow. Still haven't seen the footage, but we got to find that, Colin.
I'll work on that.
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to go through hours and hours of tape to make sure I can find that clip for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Well, can I, and I'm just curious because I love the dynamic here, but what Nick, I'm sorry, I'm used to running our own.
Keep going, brother. Keep going. You're good.
But one thing I haven't really heard is we talked about kind of Michael Ayer's relationship and why did you start Elephants and Tea? I mean, just because I love the kind of the two sides we have here as far as both being brothers and that relationship. What made you go, you know what, I want to go and run this way?
It's funny. I had a feeling this was going to come up, and no one's ever asked me that question, actually. I've always wanted to do something that meant more than, just your day-to-day corporate job. Because like you, that's where I was for a long time. We've had our family's nonprofit, the Stephen G. AYA Cancer Research Fund, that helped with funding at research here in Cleveland at the Case Comprehensive Cancer Center and wellness kits that my mom's spearheaded and done an amazing job with, and advocacy work too. But I've always wanted to start something from scratch, kind of like as my own business, if you will. And it just, it just kind of hit me one day when I was actually driving through Missouri, of all places, for work. I used to cover a sales territory that included West Coast and Missouri. Don't ask why. But of just always looking at what we could start, what I could do on my own or even with my family. And it just kind of hit me where my background is content marketing publications. That's where I worked for almost 10 years, and in the business to business side of things, industrial publications. And so it kind of hit me of how our family has been very involved with the AYA community. And in talking with my mom, we were like, hey, there's nothing out there from a narrative magazine standpoint, specifically for AYAs. What if we started something under the Stephen G? Originally, the thought was to start it under the Stephen G umbrella. But we ultimately decided to do it separately, and now it is part of it. I won't go too deep into that. But really just wanted to find a way to do something to give back and just help provide a voice to a group of people that doesn't have a big voice at the table for a lot of things. And it just made so much sense because of how we felt with what Steve's gone through, the amount of people, as you alluded to, the more people you meet, the more people you know, and the more people you lose. We've been affected from that standpoint way more than I think any of us ever anticipated. Even if Steve wasn't ever sick, we lost a lot of friends growing up in our church. For whatever reason, cancer has hit a lot of close friends of ours. So it just made sense to me. I think like to sum it up, it was like wanting to start my own thing. And then the fact of this was a space we were already invested in, and it meant so much to us to be a part of it that we wanted to do it. The shape that Elephants in Tea took to be first person narratives was not part of the plan from the start. The plan was to actually be more of a magazine, like a Cure magazine, a Conquer magazine, where you had editors, reporters doing the interviews, and then we would write them. And we were basically, everyone we spoke with when we were in focus groups told us, do not do that. Do not go that route. Let us tell our own stories, and we don't want things to be sugar-coated. We want the truth. A lot of these magazines, and I'm not saying the ones I just named are those magazines, but a lot of news stories and magazines, things are sugar-coated. They take out some of the raw stuff that you would or wouldn't get, and we wanted to not do that. So on our website and our magazine, we wanted to make sure that the story was exactly that person's story and it wasn't changed. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah.
But that was, we wanted to make sure we gave a voice to the AYA community. Whether that was the patient, the survivor, the thriver, metastatic patient, caregiver, siblings, right? So that, because it affects everybody differently. And that was the cool thing of how Elephants in Tea was started. And, while yes, we started it, the community really molded it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for us, I think it's just, it's for you, probably, I mean, I went to college, not ever think I was going to get in the nonprofit world. That is for sure. It was like, that is not something I want to dabble in, because, honestly, I think the biggest eye-opening thing for me, not even now, I think, is once you've gotten into this community, it's like, oh my God, there are a lot of nonprofits for a lot of different things. Right. And I had no idea about things. It's like, I still am like, wait, how many nonprofits are there? And what is everyone doing? And, it's like, it just blew my mind. And so I always thought I was going to be sales and this or advertising. I was thinking for a while. And then it's like, you go to work and it's like, well, my heart's taking me here. And that was because of my connection with Michael, that I was like, I want to give back to this so much that, this has impacted my life. And I tell people all the time, it's like, I love the cancer community because the BS of life is taken out of it. Yeah. People don't have time for it. It's just like, I don't want to deal with the drama or stirring stuff up. Don't get me wrong, it still happens. We know that. But, it is, for the most part, genuine.
And it doesn't feel like work for me. It's, I have to, like, myself or my wife have to be like, okay, like, back off. Like, you've worked enough today. Like, it's okay to stop, right? And I forget sometimes because you get so into what you're doing. I guess, to throw it back to Steve and Mike, how does it feel for you guys to have your brothers working in this space after what you've gone through?
Sure. I think for me, it was, in a way, it was kind of weird at times, probably earlier on, when it was other people sharing my story. Colin sharing my story, or my mom or dad or my sister. I say it a lot, and I always say kind of proud big brother moment a lot, because it's very cool to see what Colin's been doing. And again, it is. I'm very proud of what he's done, and built up, what Epic has become. Obviously Colin's a very, very large part of what Epic Experience is all about. But yeah, I think, when Colin said, like, hey, I'm going to back off from corporate America and go follow my heart, that takes a lot of guts to do something like that. And
I like to say, go work for mommy.
Oh,
No.
You said it, not me.
No.
But no, I think, I think to me, it's I'm very proud that Colin has done what he's done with something that our entire family were so passionate about. That hits very close to home.
Kind of along that same train of thought, being very proud of my brother with the work that he's done. But I'm sure Nick can attest to, when Nick told me he was quitting his job, and actually I didn't even know until like a week before he was doing it.
I don't think a lot of people did, but that's a whole other story.
But at the beginning, because it's been over 14 years now since I was first diagnosed. And I had a lot of time after my second cancer to envision what I wanted to, because once I realized I wanted to be a part of this community, I had aspirations for things that I wanted to do within the community, having seen things either go wrong for other organizations or things I thought could just be done that aren't done at all. And so when Nick started to do Elephants and Tea with my mom, and I was there to help a little bit, we definitely had some major headbutting moments. I was supposed to be a little more involved at the beginning, but I decided to step away because, one, our family doesn't exactly, from grandparents and uncles, have the best track record of having good family stuff. And so it was hard for us to really realize that I needed to let him take the reins and make it his thing fully and entirely. And it's probably the first time he's ever heard me say this, but he's proved me wrong on everything I ever questioned about Elephants and Tea, and it's been really awesome to see that.
Recorded, by the way, so I have this the rest of my life. Sorry.
I was thinking that was something Michael said to you, so thank you.
Yeah.
But it's the truth though. It's been really rewarding. Because it's always nice to be proud of your family members and say, I'm the brother of Nick Galarakis, and I've always loved doing that. As a little kid, Nick was always the popular kid in high school. No one even knew I had an older brother because he was so quiet. But everyone knew Nick, and so it's kind of like it's a really cool experience to again be in this world that I thought that no one would ever get for me. Always felt like an outcast, and getting cancer didn't help that at all. So now having a mom who always really wanted to do it, my mom's a wonderful person, but having a brother who wanted to just drop everything and come into this world, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Agreed.
Cool. Well, thank you both for approving us. That would have been awkward if it was not the case right now. It would have been like, whoops, see you later. That's
no more video cast.
Of spilling tea with the G's ever. No, but thank you guys for your honesty. I think we both appreciate that for sure. So I know we're running a little bit out of time here, guys, but we always like to end it with one of our sayings, the elephant in the room, right? Is there an elephant in the room? I think that was a pretty big elephant in the room right there. But is there an elephant in the room for Colin and Mike, for you guys, when it comes to the cancer community, whether it's specifically the AYAs, or just in general that you think about sometimes? It's like, what is that big thing that isn't talked about enough, or just something that's been bugging you?
I think for me, it's fertility and mental health. I think, when I got diagnosed, I was 22, 23, and I didn't know what my fertility journey would look like then. And it's still been something to this day that it's, you know, it's not an easy thing to talk about. You know, and I think the big thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that, and I bring it back to kind of what's going on with Corona right now, but mental health. Being a guy, you know, that's one thing, that's one of kind of the original, Colin, help me out. One of the original ideas that we had for creating Epic was for something just for men, because they're really, you know, and I still think there's really not much of a community out there for guys, young adolescent men, to figure out like, hey, how can I talk to another guy that's going to understand what I'm going through, right? Because I can't go talk to my sister, I can't talk to my mom, I'm not going to talk to my girlfriend or wife or whoever. So I think for me, it was, you know, figuring out what that journey looked like, being a guy in my young 20s, and figuring out, like I said, fertility and what life is going to look like as a guy with cancer at a young age. And I think for me, it's, you know, I kind of, it ebbs and flows, you know, trying to figure out, you know, what that still looks like. But yeah, I think fertility is always going to be a big thing that I'm always trying to talk to other people about, just because, you know, I think, like I said, when I was 22, 23, I didn't know what I was doing. So every time I talk to someone now that's going through any kind of cancer as a man, I always bring up fertility.
Yeah, for Michael, I think, you know, one of the biggest things that people forget is it's grassroots can empower you. Like, yeah, we're here, we're on this video, people are going to see it, it's going to be put out, and you know, glad to share the message we can. But one thing that I always thought with Michael that I commended so much, and I think it goes to his thought on fertility and all of that, is one of the first things he did was go into our high school. We went to an all-male high school and talk to the students there just to say, hey guys, like, you need to be aware of this. You need to, you know, it's okay to check your testicles. And you need to understand that these things are out there. And just, you know, I'm not trying to scare you, but just, you know, be honest with yourself and don't ignore these things. And so I think that really helped empower Michael through that, was that grassroots of telling his story, not through our platform, but taking charge of his. And I think that really came from a lot of that, the mental health and fertility side. You know, for me, it's two things. I'm so passionate about the caregiver community. I could, you know, I had the honor of doing sessions for multiple years at CancerCon for caregiving for peers, and where I brought a bunch of caregivers together and we would just share experiences. And I always loved doing that, to be able to interact with other caregivers and give them that platform as well, that hopefully a lot more survivors and thrivers are having to relate and build community. My other thing is just, it's a little more overarching. And my elephant in the room really is, people want to say, I had the hard cancer, I had the easy cancer, or compare. And one thing that I would say at our camps is it's not about the hard cancer, the easy cancer, or comparing to each other. What cancer does is, you're on Highway 101 and you're driving down a beautiful life that you see, and you're seeing the coast and all of that. And it's, you know, you see the end in sight, and all of a sudden that road stops and you're kicked over to the ugly dirt road in the desert, and you're saying, where am I going? And that's what hearing you have cancer does, is it diverts you off of your plan in life. And so it's not about the hard cancer, the easy cancer. It's about a reset in life to say, okay, where do I go from here? Because my path is lost. And I think that, to me, is just the thing for folks to understand. That's my elephant in the room always, is just don't compare, and know that you just had a huge diversion, that you don't have to know where to go.
You know, and I'm really happy you brought that up, Colin. I know we're nearing the end of our talk here, but one of the things I've seen a lot from a lot of different cancer patients is people who have what they would describe as a lesser diagnosis. I met a girl who was diagnosed with stage 1 melanoma, and she was afraid to talk about it because she felt that her experience with her cancer didn't justify or didn't compare to other people's cancer experience. And I'm sure, like, all of us can agree here, if you're told you have that 6-letter word of cancer, you have cancer, and it affects you. And life is perspective. And just because you don't have the same cancer as someone else, or as deadly, it doesn't mean it doesn't change you and affect you on an emotional and a deep level. So it's something that, for anybody who watching this, who has those thoughts, understand that your experiences are valid.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. That's very true.
Yeah. I think both of those elephants in the room that you guys just mentioned, the fertility piece and the guys piece, you know, Yeah, both of those are not talked about enough, or people don't know how to talk about them, right? And then the whole, who's got what easier cancer and stuff, or even when you hear a doctor or someone say that to a patient, oh, you have the easy cancer. I think that to me, when I hear someone say that, I won't say what I'm going to say, but you know what I'm feeling.
That's fair.
Yes, I think that YouTube might not be too pleased with what I would want to say, but that's okay. Guys, any parting thoughts? Thank you guys both so much for joining us today. This has been awesome. But any parting thoughts, Colin or Mike?
Just thank you guys for for having us on. This was I was really excited about this when Nick, you and I were chatting, and I was able to tell Michael, hey, here's what Nick was talking to me about, and would you want to be a part of it? And he's like, yes. And it's just, I've been in the nonprofit world now for over 6 years, and this is something I've never done. Michael and I have never sat down really together to tell our story like this, but to do it with you guys who, again, sibling to sibling and all male panel, I just think is so unique. And so just really thank you guys for doing this. And it's been fun and a blast, besides Nick, your hideous shirt.
What? Come on. Oh, let me do that stretch in there real quick.
I'm going to switch out my hats just to bring it in.
I was going to say, we got stuff all over. We can play this game.
I mean, I'm not a diehard Chiefs fan like you guys are 49ers. I just like to wear Super Bowl stuff every now and then.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Browns fan, orange. We got to bask in some glory. My wife got me this shirt a couple of years ago when Mahomes won me a lot of money in fantasy football. So I like to say that Mahomes won her a lot of money in fantasy football. So
that's
how that
fair.
goes.
Fair enough.
But
I'll echo what Colin said. Yeah, thank you guys for having us on. Kind of like Colin said, when he reached out, or when he reached out to me, that you guys were talking about doing this, or again, just the four of us, I think, like Colin said, it's a really cool dynamic to have, like, 4 guys, number one, in the nonprofit cancer world. But yeah, that dynamic of being brothers, I think it really does kind of give a bit of a different light into, what people kind of go through with someone's cancer journey. So yeah, thank you guys very much for having us, and hopefully we can do it sometime soon, or have beers virtually, or maybe in person.
Sounds good.
And before I forget, guys, the author we're trying to figure out, his name was Dan Shapiro.
Dan Shapiro, thank you.
We'll have to send this to him and say, Dan, we figured out your name. Thank you, Steve. Because technology isn't at our fingertips or anything for us to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Dan Shapiro at Penn State. So, and he actually was in the Cancer Rebellion video that Hernan put together. So, anyways, fun fact. So, all right, guys, Ferro brothers, thank you both so much. Steve, say goodbye.
Goodbye, guys.
I just had to do it. All right, everybody. Take
See
care.
you guys.
Take care.
Join us again next week for Spilling Tea with the G's. Episode 4 will be Stephanie Scoletti with Young Adult Survivors United, based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so a little Western PA. We have some Browns Steelers hate going on next week, so we'll be rocking our Browns gear. So thanks again, everybody. Take care, be safe, and we'll talk soon.